What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a new movie that dropped on Prime Video recently, and this went direct to streaming. And to be quite honest, I knew absolutely nothing about this. It has very few reviews online and on Letterboxd thus far, but I read the plot description, and it described itself as a satire about a man trying to kill his wife for her insurance money. And it sounded like it could be a really interesting approach to satire. I think it says it's like 1950s inspired, and so I was hoping like the production design and the performances and all of those things would make a compelling experience. I was thinking like deadpan, dry humor, similar to a Yorgos Lanthimos or a Wes Anderson or an Edgar Wright or something in that vein. And I was hoping to take away something that would be very enjoyable in this experience. And the movie I'm going to be talking about with you today is Trigger Happy. Trigger Happy is directed by Tiffany Kim Stevens. A repressed husband attempts to murder his breadwinning wife for her life insurance policy in this madcap 1950s inspired satire. So, like I said, I didn't know much about this movie before I went in to watch it, but I was hoping that it would be a very enjoyable experience. And unfortunately, it was not. This movie is not very good at all. I can respect what the director is trying to do, but ultimately the movie feels incredibly aimless. I feel like the satire that it's attempting to achieve doesn't feel like it has a concise goal. It feels like it tries to bite off more than it can chew, to where in the end, you just don't really take away anything. Both of the lead characters are incredibly unlikable, which normally in a situation like this where it's like one wants to kill the other, you would give one of them a redeeming quality. So you could either be like, hey, don't kill that person, or sure, kill that person. Like, do something to keep the audience invested. There's way too many characters introduced that don't really add much to the story at all. And I'll break all of these little things down when I tell you about the movie today. So, the beginning of this movie, we are dropped into this iteration of the world where things feel like the 1950s, while simultaneously there's modern technology incorporated. Like, people take calls on cell phones through the movie. And so I like when things play with an ambiguous time period, but I thought that was an interesting choice. There's some comical stuff early on about like the state of the world here. They say in order to acquire health insurance, you have to own a firearm. And so there's like little pieces of things at the beginning of the movie that I thought were going to turn into wittier versions of. There were some things early on in the movie I felt like were pretty witty, and so I was hoping the humor throughout the film was going to continue to be sharp like that. And we're introduced to George at the beginning of the movie, and George is completely and totally miserable in his life. We're also introduced to his wife Annie, and the two of them seem to have no connection in their marriage. They both kind of live their lives side by side. It's more like they're roommates and less like they're actually in love and sharing in a marriage. And they really play into the wife like loves being at home, or she acts like she does. She has like live, love, vacuum on the refrigerator, but she's also trying to pursue a career in television acting. She wants to get a job working on these television commercials. Like, the only thing you see on TV when it's turned on are these infomercials, and it's like the same two or three actors doing them over and over and over again. And he works at a restaurant. He hates his boss. He cannot stand his job. And every day we see him walk past this giant billboard of a beach, and he wants to get away. He's sick of his life and he can't stand it. And his wife is driving him to the brink of insanity. And at some point during the movie, he decides, maybe I should kill my wife for her life insurance policy so that I can kind of escape the mundanity of everyday life and start over somewhere else. And so the entirety of the film is watching this lead character try to plot and ploy a way to successfully murder his wife without being found out. So, like I said, this movie is incredibly underwhelming, and I'll start with a couple of the positives. The strongest element of this movie is the cinematography and the production design. I feel like every moment in this movie has a ton of personality because of the way the sets are crafted, because of where the camera is placed. It's like I said, there's this ambiguity with the time period where there's like elements of modern technology also interlaid with like stuff from the 1950s. And so that makes the movie a really interesting watch because of a lot of those choices. I appreciated that level of attention to detail in the production and in some of those really abstract moments where the time periods kind of bleed together. I think for the most part, all of the performances from top to bottom in this movie, the actors do a really nice job. There are moments where they're overplaying it just a hair, but I think there's an intentionality to it. I really feel like as I was watching this movie, I mentioned a couple directors at the beginning: Yorgos Lanthimos, Wes Anderson, Edgar Wright, all directors who work really heavily with deadpan comedy and like utilizing their actors to where they can be expressive, but a lot of times trying to be devoid of too much expression so that the comedy plays through in a really deadpan way. And the actors try their best. I just don't necessarily feel like the dialogue or some of the one punch lines that are associated with the script necessarily land in the way that the director wanted them to. And those are really my only positives for the movie. My biggest issues are, number one, this is like an hour and 28-minute movie and it felt twice as long. It was relatively bland. I feel like there were so many moments that just felt cyclical and repetitive. And I understand in a movie that you're trying to really showcase and capture the mundanity of a person's life that there needs to be some level of cyclical nature to their day-to-day routine to get it across to the audience. But a lot of the dialogue and the things incorporated, I didn't feel like were, you can use those bland moments to kind of build a character, and they try, but the character writing is so incredibly shallow. It's very difficult to attach yourself onto anyone. And that's my second biggest problem with this movie. The lead actor in this, his performance is good, but his character is incredibly unlikable. And as I said at the beginning of the review, he doesn't have to be. But normally if he's unlikable, you would give some kind of trait to the wife to make her very likable, and her character is not likable at all. I feel like every character in this movie is extremely obnoxious, which makes any of like the thematic elements when we're discussing like the mundanity of life and trying to overcome the mundanity of life very difficult when you don't want to root for any of these people. And that's what's really the slog of this movie and what makes it incredibly difficult. Because what's interesting is, and I'm going to parallel it back because it's an easy comparison, I think of Yorgos Lanthimos and I think of a movie like The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Most of the characters in that movie are not likable. Like Colin Farrell's character isn't super likable, Nicole Kidman's not super likable, but the thing about it is they're compelling. They are given personality traits that are fascinating to watch. And at the end of the day, even though Colin Farrell's character isn't super likable, he's a parent fighting to keep his kids alive. And so there's all of these elements incorporated that keep the experience a fascinating watch. And it's a brilliant satire and it's done very, very well. When you're watching a movie like this and every character is just kind of miserable to watch on screen, not due to the performances from the actors, they're doing a really nice job, but like, if you're playing into that misery, you need it to come across as comical. And I just felt like anytime they tried to play it up, it came across as very flat and non-humorous. And I wish that I felt differently, because this movie, like I said, visually, it looks really great and the production design is excellent. But by the time the movie ended, I'm like, what exactly did the director want me to take away from this movie? Because like normally, especially when you're satirizing like the 1950s, there's this, you can pick apart like power dynamics in relationships between husband and wives and how the husbands are typically the breadwinners. You can look at like the wife trying to be the stay-at-home wife who just wants to clean and do the, like all of like the stereotypes that existed from the 1950s. There's so many different things that you could add in specifically to really pay off in a way that works well. And I feel like it only grazes things on the surface, other than like the just feeling absolutely exhausted by living. And that's really what I got out of this movie, was like the lead character was just tired of his day-to-day life and would, you know, kill someone for money in order to escape his mundane existence. And it just wasn't enough. It didn't carry over in a way that I felt like worked, where it felt satisfying for me as a viewer. And that's really disappointing, because I feel like I said, this had a lot of potential, but honestly, I would skip this. There just really isn't enough to make it worth an hour and a half. So have you seen Trigger Happy? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I really didn't like this movie at all. I felt like there was a ton of potential. The production design was great and the performances were fine, but it was just missing anything of substance. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.